Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Herbalism segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I am your host, Tennille Christensen from Earth Mama, where I teach people how to thrive and get skilled for sustainability. As an educator, kitchen witch, and plant lover, I welcome you to tune in as I interview permaculturalists from around the world. We will learn holistic ways of integrating plants into our homes, gardens, and communities for healing. Together, we will explore the art and science of this regenerative design system and harvest the collective wisdom. Permaculture offers a pathway to empower people to develop their lifestyles and landscapes. So let's discover how to grow and know plants with a purpose. Steve Boniwell is a pioneering permaculturalist, systems thinker, and co-founder of PSKL, Water for All, an innovative regeneration company that harnesses unpowered technology to accelerate ecosystem health. This cutting-edge approach enables rapid rehydration of a landscape with a remarkable 100-fold increase in infiltration time. Welcome, Steve. It's so lovely to have you here in this podcast episode. We've been journeying in the permaculture realm for quite a few years up here in far north Queensland now. So it's a great privilege to have you speaking to the work that you do around water and soil regeneration here in far north Queensland, but also within your global company. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation for all of our listeners who are tuned in to this episode to sort of broaden beyond, plants and herbs that you use, obviously, but also into the realm of regeneration that you do. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, Toddy. Lovely to talk about really interesting things with a close friend. Yourself and partner Blake have been a really important part of my journey, and so lovely to chew the fat with you guys or with yourself today.
Beautiful. So let's jump into the first question then, which is, why is permaculture an important aspect of your life?
For me, a decade, 12 or so years ago, got interested in learning the basics, a bit about soil, and I was doing a bit of earthworks. I moved to a property in the dry tropics. And so eventually, through basic research, got exposed to permaculture. And that really, I remember lying awake at night thinking about possibilities. And I think this is an experience that a lot of people have because permaculture, one of my favorite definitions is permaculture provides a lens to see the connection of the world. And that was definitely it for me. Like it felt like there was all these increased neural pathways that connected, and I was sort of like, um, you sort of feel a bit evangelical as well. You're like, oh my gosh, I can see all these connections and I need to share it with everyone. So that's a bit of a permaculture curse that you feel you've got to inflict yourself on other people. Um, but yeah, definitely changed how I view not just in a design of landscapes, but in a broader sense, seeing those connections. What other people term as systems thinking, it can be earth systems thinking in a certain land design context, but also a broader systems thinking, which is really important. Recognizing the connection between different elements changes your outlook on life.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were just having this discussion with my last interviewee, and that was an Ayurvedic context, but so many of the principles carry over into, from the health and well-being domain of permaculture, and we've got all of these different aspects and domains like education, finance. A lot of people think that permaculture is just about gardening, and we've got, the land tenure or a land management, but it's an interesting how the principles in many ways is a philosophy in a way that we're looking at the world and engaging in that systems theory and those seeing all the connections of everything. But it's so broad, and in your journey, you've, like you doing your land-based work on the property that you're on, but you've expanded into this technology. So appropriate technology being another one of the petals of the permaculture flower, and all the ways that we can apply the principles um, to create energy or to regenerate or have some sort of outcome that is classed as appropriate technology, as in it's not producing waste, it's regenerative in its own practice or system. So I'd love for you to kind of share with everybody what, how you're utilizing this in the realm of water and soil management or regeneration.
Hmm. Well, connecting with permaculture and what we're doing and land regeneration, the aspect that excited me initially was that learning that how you manage a landscape can, actively build topsoil. It can change dirt to topsoil, or you can enhance or equally degrade a water cycle. So, being in a brittle climate in the dry tropics, and having this sort of blank canvas, that excited me, that how I steward the landscape, how I manage for more life and more diversity, whether that's through livestock in the tropical savanna with cattle, or it's with machinery. Um, a lot of it revolves around moisture retention and nutrient, reducing drought, fire, and flood. Yeah, that's what excited me. Understanding that these blank canvases, there is no peak ecological function if you can improve conditions for life. Nature will self replicate and improve and improve and improve. And that's the exciting part. You see some people who are a couple of decades down their journey, increasing carbon, moisture retention, huge infiltration rates where they were virtually nothing and would just flood. And now they're hundreds of millimeters an hour. They've got the most exciting properties, and they're only decades, 20, 30 years down the journey. So imagine that over a longer time period. That's super exciting. And the ecosystem will express differently. All these different living organisms have a special niche that they thrive in. Um, so another element that we're bringing to it, as I learned about keyline design and natural sequence farming, all these methods for slowing and distributing water, making the most of when it comes down, we're focusing on another element, adding another element, which is a water-powered pump. So the water-powered pump is a distribution mechanism and a timing mechanism. So that extends some of those strategies. It takes it with a slightly different function and it extends it to the next level where you can get a 100-fold increase in infiltration time. So you can change the property that I was on previously had 80% runoff. You could change that to, almost all of a wet season infiltrated, which just changes all those living beings that have all the ecological niche, and it sort of benefits the ones that thrive with more moisture. So species that love fire, and it's in a fire ecology, they will be disadvantaged, and there'll be more moisture, fungi, humidity. So that's a really interesting aspect, that you can steer living systems. And I think that's what we're meant to do on Earth. We've steered in a terribly destructive direction, and now we've got to refocus our consciousness and tools, and we can do it quite easily back the other way. And we need to do it in a hurry, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the really exciting part, is seeing, okay, what's been done in the past, and there's been a lot of deforestation, and we can see, yeah, the water is running off into our riverways. We're seeing really dirty brown water. Like, we've got all of these very obvious impacts of I guess conventional land management, and then we've got these incredible tools or solutions through permaculture. And like you said, 20 to 30-year systems, and they have almost peak infiltration. For listeners who don't know what that means, it means instead of the water hitting the surface and running off really fast, it's getting absorbed by the soil because of the practices that have been implemented. And you talked about cattle cattle can destroy land and cattle can also improve it. It's just, are we supporting them to be in their natural way and move in a herd? And um, people might have heard of holistic management and cell grazing and things like that. So it comes down, yeah, like our consciousness and our understanding of working with nature. And even, machinery plays its place when we're kind of doing the slow sinking and, working with the elevation and contour. We can really come in one time, carve out or acupuncture the land, open up what, maybe some people use the word meridians, but working with the energy of the land, and then have capacity, just those simple things where you've got the right amount of disturbance, you've got um, increased fertility through the livestock, beautiful droppings, and you've got just the system then takes, like, nature starts healing itself with the once you've got moisture, then all of those seeds of potential that's been sitting dormant in the soil start to grow. And so it can be this incredible co-creation of, our place of um in doing some minor changes, but supporting nature to regenerate, and as opposed to the past destruction. And that's what I love about permaculture, is that it's so solutions based, and that there is real world evidence um, of such improvement. Like, there's case studies and there's examples out there that we can all learn from. And yeah, you definitely brought to Blake and my attention the Bunya pump. So that would be, it's taken me a while to get my head around it. So it would
Mm-hmm.
be great for you to, if you can share more on that technology itself, and how, like, what kind of landscapes, you're in a dry tropical area, that's a majority of the Cape and far north Queensland. We only have a small tropical belt of Australia. And so, what kind of landscape can be regenerated with this technology that you speak of?
Mm-hmm. I might share something briefly a bit on our systems understanding of water, and then I'll get
Yeah,
to the Bunya pump after that,
perfect.
because
Yes,
it's really sets
please
the
do.
frame of the lens that we think about it.
Yep.
Um, so we sort of what we're looking at, the lens we're looking at, is that we have the same amount of water that we have had for eons, particularly with our atmospheric composition now, the different um, elements in our atmosphere. Water isn't escaping into space, it's in a cycle around the Earth.
Yep.
So the water on land, in biology, in the groundwater, is connected to the atmospheric water, is also connected to the ocean. We have rising atmospheric moisture, and that holds more energy. Every degree rise holds 7% more moisture, and we're getting these bigger storms, bigger cyclones, bigger floods. Um, the ocean, it participates in this cycle as well. There's increased evaporation as well. And the land is that buffer between evaporation from the ocean, atmospheric buildup, and there's a range of mechanisms that nature uses as the moderator, the potential and the giver of life, that makes life possible and makes all this possible, and turns water from a destructive force into a productive force. So with that understanding, um, if you were able to click your fingers, say, and create a rainforest where there was a desert, you would have different dynamics in the coastal moisture. Instead of having a high pressure heat dome from the heat reflected off the desert, that coolness, that ocean moisture can now go onto the land and give to the land. So if you're able to click your fingers, that's the potential that's possible there. There's also a range of other things that the rainforest or forest is doing. It has a cooling effect. It has evapotranspiration. it's also providing the aerosols, which are the cloud condensation nuclei for that moisture in the air. Moisture needs something to coalesce around to form droplets, to form clouds. So it's actively creating the rainfall, and there's all these multiplying effects. A little bit into the geoengineering side as well. It's accelerating extremely quickly, and there's a lot of funding going to it. They're keen to put aerosols in to reflect solar radiation and to get cloud formation. But rainforests do this even more efficiently with specialised, all these efficiency gains that nature's been striving to create life with. They are far beyond, and they're not like geoengineering, where if you stop geoengineering, you stop putting inputs into the atmosphere. You don't have this massive whiplash. So it just seems crazy in my mind that you don't go for the self-replicating living system, which is the ecosystem. So the places that experience water scarcity, it's not a lack of water, it's a lack of ecosystem that facilitates giving water back to that land water bank. So that's the context of the Bunya pump. We're looking to multiply and compound using the gravity fall, increase the timing, increase the water soil interface by a large percentage, even to the extent that in time you're probably wanting to be slowing down and reducing because you want to optimize for certain ecosystems and productive systems rather than having everywhere a humid rainforest. Yeah, so the Bunya pump is an Australian innovation. It's by two very clever Aussie guys, Aussie tinkerers, I would call it. You know, those people who just can't help themselves but create and invent. It's an interesting pump. I'm not sure if people are aware of a hydraulic ram pump, but that's sort of a clacker swing check valve, and that has a hammer effect. It sort of hammers water up a hill. The majority of the water powers a minority that's pumped uphill. The Bunya pump is a much softer mechanism, so it doesn't self-destruct, unlike a big ram pump. It doesn't have to be super heavy and big. So it's clever innovation that can pump to much higher head heights, and it's also self-priming. It can start and stop itself, and self-regulating. It can handle different flows. So that's an advantage over other water-powered pumps. Its normal application is in a flowing stream, and it has great benefits there. And our design emphasis is thinking, what other things can we utilize this water powered pump? How can we think about it differently and give it a whole lot of other applications for broad scale land regeneration? The purpose isn't the pump, the focus isn't the pump, and the purpose isn't the pumped water. That's sort of the benefit, sort of the daily transaction account that you can utilize. The purpose is investing in the landscape and reducing your drought, fire, flood, green growth for longer. So it's got really interesting applications across drylands. It's got interesting applications for infiltrating and pumping snowmelt. Is another conceptual design application. There's also varied strategies where instead of discharging the water, we might be able to add some links, Toddy, so that people can understand some of these concepts. They're not
We
difficult
will.
concepts, but they're new.
Yes, we can put them in the show notes for sure, and people can, yeah,
That'd be
expand their
great.
knowledge on this. Great.
Cool. One of the strategies is called maximum infiltration, and it's about infiltrating, getting land spread across, getting water spread across, like in swales and different things. So you could be capturing water on one water catchment, you could be storing it on another, and you could be pumping to a third. So there's a whole range of new design applications that land designers can explore.
Mm.
Another application, instead of pumping water, spreading it on the landscape, you're looking to contain the discharge water. So, and you can have a series of pumps with a basic concrete structure around the pump. We call that the lifeline and water relay structure. And that was in desert environments. We did a conceptual design for the Weathermakers, a Dutch engineering company, and the aim was to utilise a large amount of water caught in a wadi before it evaporates 5 months later. So you're wanting to infiltrate it quickly, and you're also pumping it at the same time. So multiple pumps in series, you can pump the discharge water multiple times. You can add water at these concrete structures at any point, and you can discharge water, direct bore well recharge. So the groundwater is rising, the fresh water is better quality, and as the groundwater rises, that improved water quality is a big benefit because there's lots of problems with brackish water, saltwater incursion. Lots of strategies are looking to utilize the groundwater, but they're putting nutrient and heavy mineral load over the landscape and they're affecting pH and nutrient balances. And that's a very short term strategy.
And we
What
see
we're
this in the
looking
Murray Darling with all of the salts and yeah,
Yeah,
so the water quality is just as important as water availability in the groundwater. Yeah.
yep, extremely important. Like my experience from a bore on the last property I was on compared to dam water was a tenfold increase in production from not really getting a yield on your veggies to beautiful veggies with no fertilizer.
Hmm.
So water quality is super important. Um, yeah, so just emphasizing that a lot of strategies are about groundwater extraction and how much is safe to do so. What's the longevity of this process? And we're saying no, invest in the land water bank and have the whole landscape improve. And then you also get pumped water. You have bore well water to use, and it's improved quality. And the benefit spreads out, and there's amazing rehydration competitions in India. I'm not sure if you know the Pani Cup
No,
and those
please
places.
tell me about it. What is this? So
Incredible.
there's competitions of how much water cycling and water catchment they can do.
Yeah, oh, it's quite moving. Just the profound effect it has on villages that people are moving away. There's no employment, there's no jobs, there's no food in these areas. Rajendra Singh is a key person who was involved with the water movement, and then I think some other people started this Pani Cup. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
using water.
Okay. I've heard that. But from the perspective of them doing a lot of riparian regen planting along the riverways to bring the water table up and prevent erosion and things. So,
Yeah, along those lines, I can't remember how many rivers it was. It was seven, eight, nine, 10 rivers have started flowing again, and the yields are multiples of what they used to be. Just how incredible and moving is that? That's the
very,
potential of people with very limited machinery. They're out there with their picks and shovels. It's a competition. They're competing against the next village down the road, and it's a broad movement with massive amounts of people. So super exciting. They're really leading the way and a great inspiration there.
yay. Oh, thanks for bringing that up because that was part of our my discussion with Eagle Persian in my very first podcast. He went over to India and contributed
Yeah,
to that
cool.
project because you can
Mhm.
travel from around the world and join in as well.
Mhm.
It's a
Cool.
very big movement over there. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so in essence it's really it's water cycling. So you're moving water as far across and through the landscape on elevation from top to bottom. The water's getting to the bottom. You're using the Bunya pump in maybe different sections or even just at the bottom of the elevation and pumping it for free. You've got this free
Mhm.
technology because of the design of the Bunya pump, and it's bringing it back up to the top of the property and it's navigating its way through depending on whether you have different dams or the what was the name of the cement
Water relay.
water relays,
Water
yep,
relay.
or
Yep.
just simple swales, hey, like just
Mhm.
traveling through the swales from one to the next dam.
Yeah. And the key understanding is that the water is multiplying and compounding year on year. But I was talking a little bit about nature's efficiencies. That's where the massive gains are. Fungal mycelium, mycologists talk about a 700-fold increase in water and nutrient availability when a plant is working with mycelium. Soil structure with regular moisture, covered soils, living roots that can improve from a hard clay 2 millimeters an hour to 200 millimeters an hour just
Mm,
with that management. So that's the massive multipliers.
yeah.
Then you've got aerosols, the moisture coming off. You've got your carbon and biomass isn't going up in smoke with fuel fire reduction burnings. You've got that moisture, you've got that fungi breaking down the fire fuel load. So the real multiples is what nature has developed over eons, and then the potential for life is the water, and that's where we can really steer it.
Love it. So you add water, you're increasing the water, and it's actually it's the same amount of water. So you have like a rain event, and in deserts that's going to be far in between, but you're capturing and utilizing all of it to its full extent, so it's not just running off the landscape and evaporating quickly. You've got these technologies in place through very simple but very thought out contouring, and then because the water's there, the land starts regenerating, and obviously it's like you're turning the key of the engine.
Hmm.
Obviously the first season you're going to have the emergent weeds and
Yeah,
seeds, of the hardy, first succession plants, and that's going to break down, create carbon with the water that's there, is creating the fungal environment. Then the next rainfall happens, you've cycled and utilized that water again, and it's just self-perpetuating. You're getting this yearly increase in biology because you've used the water more efficiently. Is that what it is in?
definitely, definitely. And I think you hit on a key understanding there, and that's understanding ecological function. Like you were talking about pioneer weeds coming in, that should be expected. When you think about um, mainstream farming mindset, they're putting pesticides, herbicides, and taking it back to dirt, level zero. They're going to get exactly the same weeds over a prolonged time. It's going to be herbicide and pest resistant and soil contamination. So, working with desirable pioneer species can be preferable, but eventually, as the ecological niches and the soil improves and the fertility, the moisture, the conditions get better. Those weeds function. That's their function. And same with pests. Unhealthy plants get attacked by pests. That's the pest function, to take out the weak, just like a predator takes out the old and the sick. And that's how the strongest genetics survive. So having that permaculture systems lens recognizes these different stages, and yeah, that's really key because it's not the mainstream understanding.
Mm, one day it will be.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, on that topic, how do you specifically integrate plants into your life? I guess from a healing perspective.
Mhm. I'll give you a little anecdote, which would sound like a very obvious thing, but when I sort of started my permaculture journey a dozen years ago, it was an epiphany to me, realizing that what you put in your body was all your body had to work with. It's like that is the particular type of fuel. So you can't expect to be healthy and all these other beneficial aspects if you're not putting the right fuel into your body. Um, so it sounds very obvious, but day to day herbs. Yeah, we have a good stash of herbs. We like to keep it as close to the kitchen as possible because it has a direct impact on how much you use it. And oh, it's just that little bit further away. No use having a veggie patch right up the back. And herbs, we really love our perennial herbs. In the area we are, we're lucky that we can grow quite a range. We don't have heavy frost really, so we can grow subtropical and tropical herbs. Perennial stuff, really love. Lots of Asian stuff. Um, an interesting story is when my kids were young, the kids got some nappy rash, and I got some comfrey, and I heard about it being this U-Butte um, quick healer, and we applied it to the kids' nappy rash, and the next day the kids' rash had all scabbed up, and we're like, oh my gosh, is that okay? That was super, super quick. And then in hindsight, we're like, oh, of course, that's how skin heals itself. But just the scabbing up was super, super quick compared to what would normally happen. So that was really interesting, experimenting with comfrey. We do have some epic omelets in our house where we throw like a dozen herbs and in large mounds and mix it up. Um, yeah, really focusing on variety. The herbs are all incredibly powerful stuff. My wife's into all her essential oils and diffusers, and they've got some pretty amazing results. Actually, I know that you are a bit of a expert in that too, Toddy.
I wouldn't say expert, but definitely dabble and play with it all. I think as a mum, you have to, like it's the kids are always needing something. So when you have a garden to walk out to and a go-to and a
Mhm.
repertoire of essential oils on the table, it's like a kiss and a hug and a little dab and they're all good.
Yeah, well, the results are pretty quick for
Yeah.
the different ones that Soph does. Um, Here's a thought which you might have some insight into, and it's along the lines of some of the essential oils that are really very popular and famous. They seem to be perennial, say, desert species with massive long roots. So, would that be related to the access to nutrients that they have, and that's why they have such amazing properties? Or am I on the wrong path? Would you make that generalization, or what would you?
Yeah, I mean, like things like vetiver. Is that what you're talking about? Or tree
Yeah,
species like
vetiver, frankincense, and
frankincense,
lots of these other
sandalwood.
types. They've all got
Yeah.
massive root systems.
Um, well, I mean, they're perennials, so they have, they're long lived and they do, yeah, they would have much bigger root systems than, say, calendula, which is an annual and sits more in the lower species kind of flower layer, ground cover to bush level layer. Um, and in that sense, those plants are generally used in a tincture or a yeah, used with alcohol or oils for extraction for their medicinal use. So with essential oils, they're so potent and they actually take a lot of material to produce a little bit of oil.
Sure.
So quite often it's a combination of roots and barks, leaves, different aspects where you have bulk material to be able to um, steam or go through the extraction process of creating the oil. So that's probably why they're utilized. But yeah, perennials definitely dig deep and open up and access the deeper layers of minerals within the soil. So I'd say that there's a connection to it there. I don't know too much about
Mm-hmm.
it, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I keep seeing vetiver in your systems.
Mm-hmm. Pretty
And
incredible stuff.
I think that's something to note with people too, is that when you are creating water systems, like when you're making change on a landscape and you're, um, whether it's a key plowing or creating swales or even bringing animals in and moving them in different sections, there's always a play with the plants, and you would never create those systems without planting the appropriate, or like allowing nature to grow those weeds, those first succession weeds, and not poison them, like allow them to be and serve their niche and their role in that time frame, or selectively plant out um, purposeful pioneer species that you want in that location. But it's those two things go together, is in the essence of their planting systems as well. You're wanting to put in the hardy first succession because that's it's kind of like you've got the engine and the key, whether the plants or the water is the key or the engine, but both of those things together is what accelerates and gets things going. So don't dig out a swale and not plant on it, is what I'm saying.
Yep, definitely. I do think that water is the key
Yep.
and the engine. Um, so if you don't choose your allies, nature will choose the equivalent. So if you don't plan out your swale, something
Something
will
will
end
grow.
up. Yeah, that's right. Um, so that's a really interesting conceptual experiment of not planting anything and seeing what nature brings, which I get inspired by stories of someone putting in a dam in a dry landscape and muskrats, like in Canada and places like that, they'll arrive and start building a home before the dam's even full. And, such beautiful stories that they've come from kilometres away, or beavers will move in. And, nature's incredible how it finds water, or even host plants. Bring it back to plants. I have a love for butterflies, and I'm blown away that Cairns birdwing and Ulysses, these beautiful species up here, if you put in their host plant species, even in the drylands, they arrive. So it's important to have other flowers that they enjoy as well. But that blows my mind. They've come 15, 20 kilometres flying. They've spotted your place.
Euodia or whatever the
Yeah,
what is
absolutely
it? There's
incredible.
the Euodia tree and there's a vine. I'll have to
Native Dutchman's pipe, the
yeah, can't think of the
for
plant
the Cairns
name.
birdwing. Aristiochlia
Yeah,
tigala.
Aristeolochia. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like we grew one just in suburbia all up the front of our staircase, and it was incredible. Like it grew, filled the staircase like the railing. The kids loved it. We all just sat on the stairs and watched the caterpillars come and
Mhm.
eat all the leaves and evolve, and then chrysalis, and then turn into butterflies. It's this whole full cycle, and all you need to do
Yeah,
is put a plant in the ground and have this experience. So yeah, definitely
definitely.
integrating them into your gardens.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about how we should be more purposeful with host plants for different species. I was just thinking of cassowaries the other day and thinking they really enjoy certain fruits. Should there be, there probably is a drive to do this, but to get those particular fruits and plant them out en masse where people aren't, because there's obviously issues with crossing the road. So, I
Yeah, a
don't
lot
know.
of the region, a lot of the local regeneration native nurseries and organizations, not for profits. That's what they, especially in our region, being in the rainforest, that's their purposeful plants along riparian zones because the
Mhm.
animals need the cassowaries need access to water. So they're creating these corridors in between farms and suburbia where they can travel and have their food species and water. And hopefully, people will stop on the road when they see them and not run them over.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the more remote, the better, personally, with dogs and cars and things like that. So I'm
Yeah,
pleased people are doing it.
for sure. not a super highway Coranda
Yeah.
range. Uh,
Yeah. Have you ever heard a cassowary make a noise before?
yeah, we've got friends down um, south of Cairns, and they live in a cassowary corridor, so they don't have animals, but they consistently on a daily basis have a big dada come through with the young chick, and yeah, they're very ancient and prehistoric. Like they feel like you're engaging or witnessing a modern day
Yeah.
dinosaur. It's
Hmm.
just incredible. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna make the sound though. I don't know.
That's my next question. I bet you $50 you come
Yeah.
up.
Definitely not.
Um, yeah, it was fascinating. I only heard that for the first time on a video recently, and it was very dinosaur-like. And the other dinosaur reference is I saw a massive footprint. I have seen them in the wild, but seeing a huge footprint and putting my foot up against it, and it's bigger than my foot. I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna, because I was walking by myself through the rainforest. I'm like, I'm gonna get out of here. Um, so yeah,
They're
beautiful
big
creatures.
birds. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ah, so what down to question three, we'll keep it rolling. What is your favorite plant? What would you recommend people have in their home garden? You just mentioned you have heaps of herbs in your kitchen garden close to your house.
Hmm.
Um, like what are they specifically, and what plant do you find is um, the one that you work with the most?
Hmm. Herbs, plants,
Any?
either one.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like ground covers that minimize the maintenance I have to do. So I love my sweet potato, I love pumpkin, and I love tripping over the produce when you're sort of walking through the garden. Oh, yay, a pumpkin.
Surprise pumpkin.
Yeah, that's
That's very
enjoyable.
pragmatic of you. The food plans that mitigate management and having to mow. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. There's also some pretty cool herb ones. Some are classified as weeds as well up in this part of the world because they grow so easily, but they're also classified as superfoods. So you got got a cola and your different spinach varieties, sambung and different variations on those. Love those Asian
Oh,
greens, and I tend to use
cool.
them as ground covers. They climb up the
Yeah.
trees, and if they get crazy, I get in there with the machete or the whippersnipper, and then just sort of mulch the place with perennial herbs.
Perfect. It's
Yeah.
such a good way to improve soil, and yeah, that's why I love the lens of permaculture, because it's like we're not just planting something to eat. We're planting something and we're looking at, okay, what is the ecosystem function of this? And yeah, you're speaking to these edible ground covers that do, add carbon, suppress weeds, stop water running off it fast and helping it infiltrate into the soil, creating little microclimates and less evaporation because it's holding the moisture when it does rain. There's so many aspects of, if we
Hmm.
tune in um, to what they're doing, what these plants are doing, and why we would encourage them, as opposed to just that one yield of, oh, I can eat it, as
Yeah.
amazing as that is.
Yep. Another favorite of mine is stuff that strikes really easily from cuttings.
Yep.
So I love the perennial basil, love the mulberry. So I'll just take a branch, get a dozen cuttings, and just go plonk them in when there's enough moisture in the soil. They all strike. So you've got sort of rows of mulberries everywhere. Doesn't matter if they grow into each other or they're not maximizing their fruiting potential. They've got flowers on them for bees. They're providing shade. They can be mulched at any time. Cassava as well. So I love those ones that strike super easy. It's quite
Me
enjoyable.
too. I think mulberry is so understated. It's, yeah, I mean, goats and and livestock. Like it's such a good fodder.
Mm.
It's not really a culture here of silkworms and having, creating silk industry from the mulberries, but you can use the leaves as a tea. I can't remember all the medicinal benefits of that, but um, mulberries in some Asian countries, like the leaves are um, kind of blended up and fermented and put into trays and paper. They use them to make paper as well. And then you can use the bark to make dye. Like when I
Mhm.
started looking into it, it's like, wow, I've grown up with the mulberry tree and having that quintessential experience of getting covered in dye of the purple and eating them. And if that's the only reason why you plant a mulberry, then that be it. Go for it. But
Mhm.
over the years, well, in the north here, it grows so very differently to it does in more temperate climates where you get the big trunk. You find here it's more of a bush with lots of
Mhm.
long branches coming off of it, and they bend
Yeah.
so well. So you can make cubby houses with them and bend them over to touch the ground, and they'll do an aerial shoot. And you can pick for the little kids,
Mm.
they can pick
Yeah,
the
you guys got
mulberries off. Yeah,
real
from ground
epic.
level.
Yeah, very. You have to post a picture of your mulberry tree one day. It's pretty cool, and lovely
Yes.
big berries on it.
Well, it's got lots of passion fruit stacked on it at the moment. Those
Oh,
two are
wow.
thriving together. Yeah.
Another focus for plants at our previous place, having livestock late in the dry season, was the ones with protein. So your mulberries, like you're saying, Lakina, we also used to like. Yeah, Lakina, Moringa didn't really grow well enough to feed them heaps, but also pumpkins and things like that. The cattle love some fruits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can get
Sweet leaf,
pretty
katuk.
sweet leaf. Ice cream bean as well. The young leaves, they were a bit fussy, even with um, not heaps of protein around. They're a bit fussy for that, but they will eat the young stuff. And I think they can be trained more so to eat it once their rumen gets a bit used to things and they get used to the routine. They will take to things because, yeah, there's lots of plants that are super high in protein that is really valuable. You got to balance the rumen um, with the cattle. Yeah, a bit of greens and bit of browns. Otherwise, they don't put on weight. Or in the wet season, they might get scours. They might get diarrhea, and they're not putting on weight as well. And when they've only got green stuff, and it's just like a fire hose coming out of their backside.
Not those beautiful patties that we can do so much more with.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed having the cattle, and like you were saying, we were using them to manage the landscape. So we had all these types of grasses that were like matchsticks ready to go up late in the dry season. So the aim of that was to lay it down like a mulch, treating it like a garden, and then fertilizing and manuring, and not hammering places, moving them regularly as well. And we saw um, big increases in dung beetle, which if you're spraying your cattle, you don't get cattle egrets following your cattle, you don't get dung beetles. And they're just so important, taking nutrient down into the ground, manure. So it was super enjoyable. A bit sad to leave that cool place, but that's the way life rolls. Different times. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
onto the next project, really, of,
that's right.
we always stewarding new places that call us. Yeah.
That's right.
Leave a good mark and move on and
Yeah,
create in the
right.
next. Yeah.
Like the saying, that's something along the lines of the sign of a amazing civilization is men who plant trees under whose shade they'll never sit.
Mm, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And yeah, planning for the next seven
And
generations. It's
and
like,
women.
yeah, that's it. Humans, peoples. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's our role. All got to do our little bit.
We do indeed. Um, Great. So, in all of that, what's happening right now? Like, what's alive and thriving in your life right now?
Well, the kids are alive and thriving, which is a good
That's great.
thing. So I've got four of those. So that's definitely a focus and my biggest challenge and my biggest blessing at the same time. Um, yeah, one of my focuses at the moment is PSKL Water for All. So that's this land regeneration company. And we're looking to really attach ourselves to some land regeneration companies internationally who are often the same systems thinking, permaculture design, regenerative ag focused people. They understand, and we've learned from a lot of them, so we know that they're very aligned. So yeah, we've had some good success into integrating ourselves with that and developing what we're doing, but getting more clear um, in articulating what we're about. And we think there's a really exciting role. I talk about unpowered technology accelerating ecosystems. And I think that's exciting for several reasons. One is that it's multiplying compounds, and we've talked about the ecological function that has exciting possibilities. But the other reason is why we see it as important is relative to the other options, the other strategies that we're trying to pursue. There's major limitations and shortcomings in, um, say, the electrification of everything, net zero, all these things. You increasingly hear people saying, well, net zero doesn't really mean anything. It's just funny accounting, or the electrification of everything isn't possible beyond a generation or two for the key minerals and the infrastructure and the energy required for these um, changes and transitions. And it hasn't been a transition, it's been an addition. We've just added to the energy grid. Emissions are as high as they've ever been currently. So I'm not discouraging renewables or electrification or anything. I'm saying they're not perfect solutions that people are proposing. And there's a growing awareness of that in the climate space, which I follow quite actively. And that's why our emphasis is on self replicating living systems. That's how nature did it. We're going through a little bit of a carbon pulse and a mineral pulse while we've got these incredible tools that give us advantages. But our tools have become so powerful and destructive that we need to reorientate, change our consciousness to stewardship, and then focus on those living systems because that's all that will be left in a relatively short amount of time. And also key to that is incentive. There's all these multipolar traps and game theory, and if I don't create masses of data centers and AI, someone else will do it. And um, so we think that a focus on ecosystems and the empowerment that comes through that, I think it doesn't have many disadvantages. I think it has a lot of positives. So we're really hoping to emphasize that. And we're joined up with some really exciting partners that can do big things collaboratively with anyone who wants to join and become part of this movement. So excited for that because that's the change that need to happen. It's coming our way extremely quickly. People who don't follow the climate space closely, they don't realise that climate scientists are saying it's too late. We need to be doing geoengineering now. No polar sea ice within a matter of years, aspects like that. Um, so they're scary things, but I'm hopeful that if our lens is correct, we can understand, we can ask the right question and then solve the right problem. Um, yeah, so challenging massive topics, but from a systems understanding, they're all connected.
They're all
And
connected, yeah.
yeah,
And it is, even though it's complex, it's actually relatively simple. I think
absolutely.
we overcomplicate it. And yeah, if we just come back to those principles of nature, and yeah, I like how you keep bringing it back to the, change of consciousness and what we're focusing on. Um, there's so many
Definitely.
options out there, and it's, yeah. bringing it back to ecosystems, and regardless of people's understanding of climate change and who caused what and whether it's natural or man-made, we are all experiencing the intensity or witnessing in other areas um, bigger climatic events and disturbances. And without placing blame on who or what, we have these capacities to mitigate and to
Mhm.
improve the land which we're seeing is being degraded in front of us, into more harmonious and natural systems where we all succeed through having access to healthier foods and
Yeah.
animals,
Hmm.
and livelihoods through that interaction. It just seems like a no-brainer, really.
It does. And this is one of my favorite systems understanding related to herbs, related to healthy food. Um, the same organisms that change dirt into topsoil are the same organisms in our gut,
Mm,
and they number between 1 to 1 to every cell in our body to 10 to 1, 10 of these organisms to every cell in our body. So, unless we're eating healthy organic food from good soil, we're missing a key aspect of what food actually is. So that this it sort of exposes things like hydroponics or food grown in a lab or all things that aren't working with nature in a healthy organic soil. But food actually is these microorganisms plus the nutrients, and such a key thing. We're really poisoning ourselves at the moment. Yeah, I don't want to go down that road too much.
yeah,
Just
we
think,
could talk on that for ages, but
yeah,
yeah, that's that. Before, just as I was entering into my permaculture journey, I worked for a company in Townsville called Vital Resource Management, and it was at that point in time making biological fertilizers with excess produce. Generally, farmers involved in it were growing pumpkins because they're fast growing, and utilizing excess produce to blend it up as a food source to add the culture, the biological culture, and produce and to make their own biofertilizer. So it was like a closed loop system. And their farms, it's still going now. It's international. It's happening everywhere, and they work with water management as well as in like cleaning water to make it um, usable for absorption into land, for irrigation and things like that. But that was like in my mid 20s. That was a consciousness change for me to into the world of microbiology, and what you just said then about this this microbiome in the soil in our bodies as 1 to 1 or 10 to 1. That means we have more biology that is interacting between the land, our surroundings, and into our physical human body than we have our own selves.
yeah,
So we're not like as a person. We are, there is so much more happening on than just the cells that we kind of were born from. And I think health or unwellness really comes from,
yeah,
yeah, how are we relating to our environment, and are we living in a creating the conditions to have a healthy organic system and that food source around us, or are we part of this industrial matrix?
yep. I think another key part, and something that you'd emphasise with permaculture design, is creating fertility and providing for your needs where you are,
Mm,
instead of having these centralized hubs that provide everything you need and the rest is a moonscape. It's devoid of life because of the herbicides, pesticides, poor land management. So the potential is for fertility and abundance and biodiversity everywhere if
everywhere.
we point our tools and consciousness in the right way. Um, yeah.
Amazing. So if that excites anyone who's listening right now, I'd say jump into the show notes and click on all the links and get connected with you and what PSKL is doing. Can you just explain what that means? It's an acronym. Hey, PSKL
Yep.
means.
So PSKL Water for All is the full name. I have two co-founders. They're from Pakistan and they speak Urdu. So that means water for everyone in Urdu. And that's an initiative that one of my co-founders, Ali, started not long before I met him. So there's a bit of a divine guidance in this journey in multiple ways. And that was definitely one of them, finding my co-founders and really having that really resonated with me, that need for water for everyone.
Yeah, beautiful. So in Urdu, it's Pani Sab Ke Lay. Is that
Lié, yeah.
Lié?
That's my Aussie pronunciation. I could be
Yeah, mine too.
horribly wrong.
Beautiful. Water for all. I think that's a really great way to finish our episode today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of that with everybody. I think it's
Thank you, Toddy.
very
Thoroughly
inspiring.
enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and love to chat again soon.
Yeah, we'll get an update. Take two. What the project's on the ground and what's happening. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it now with someone you know will benefit from this information. And remember, we're not just talking about change, we are cultivating it. Through these conversations and through the Elder Tree Patreon community, together we are sowing the seeds for an education centre and healing sanctuary. You can unlock access to our treasure trove of wisdom via our Patreon, so you can do that in the show notes below or from our website. Please subscribe now and leave us a review. It really helps the bots share our podcast with the world, and your support ensures that this podcast and our vision can thrive. To grow them is to know them is to use them is to love them, and then happily herbs become your way of life. May you be blessed with good health and many plans.